You're tuned in to Beyond the Known. Imagine, if you will, a civilization rising not from open plains, but from the deep emerald green heart of the jungle, a place where cities of stone reached for the sky, built without metal, without the wheel, without beasts of burden, where time itself was charted with, well, a truly stunning precision, and the stars were mapped as intimately as the forest floor. Today, we explore the enigmatic world of the Maya. We've gathered a wealth of research, recent findings that shed new light on how this incredibly sophisticated society emerged, how they mastered architecture, writing, mathematics, astronomy, and then how they faced a complex, drawn-out unraveling. We'll touch on the mysteries that endure and perhaps some of the more unconventional ideas surrounding their legacy.
Yes, our goal here is really to distill the essence of Maya civilization for you, to give you the key insights from current understanding. We'll look at everything from their cosmic knowledge to their societal structures, their rise, their transformation, and why they continue to fascinate us so deeply.
Okay, let's begin at the dawn. Picture the scene around 2000 BC, in the lands we now know as southeastern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, parts of Honduras, El Salvador. This is where the early Maya started settling down, forming communities, cultivating the staples that would sustain them. Maize, certainly, but also beans, squashes, chili peppers.
And it wasn't long, relatively speaking, before things really took off. By around 750 BC, in what archaeologists call the pre-classic period, you start seeing the first true cities emerging. And these weren't just collections of huts, they featured monumental architecture. Temples, plazas, the foundations were being laid.
And the truly mind-bending part is how they built all this. No metal tools, no draft animals pulling heavy stone.
Exactly. It forces you to reconsider what's possible. Their architectural achievements were, frankly, astonishing. Cities like the Great Tikal didn't just spring up, they expanded organically over centuries. You had these sprawling ceremonial centers, intricate palaces for the elite, the iconic pyramid temples reaching towards the heavens, and those distinctive ball courts for their sacred games.
The scale is hard to grasp.
It really is. Research estimates that just a single elite residence at Copan might have taken, say, over 10,000 man-days to build. Now, scale that up to a massive city like Tikal, you're talking millions of man-days. It implies an incredible level of social organization, of communal effort.
And resourcefulness, too.
Absolutely. Where limestone wasn't readily available, like at Comalcalco near the coast, they adapted. They actually developed fired bricks, which is quite unique in the region. And they mastered lime-based cement and stucco for their finishes, using ropes and sheer human power for the heavy lifting. It's, well, ingenuity born from necessity.
It's incredible. Building these cities was a feat in itself, but their intellectual world was just as complex, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Parallel to their building, they were developing what's recognized as the most sophisticated, the most highly developed writing system in all of the pre-Columbian Americas. It's a logosyllabic system, meaning it used symbols representing whole words and symbols representing syllables. We find early examples, inscriptions dating back maybe to 300 or 200 BC in the Pit-Hen Basin, their heartland in Guatemala.
So writing was established early on.
It seems so, yes. Now, tragically, most of their books, these beautiful screenfold codices made from bark paper, were destroyed during the Spanish conquest, a huge loss. But we know from inscriptions on stone and pottery that they had elite scribes, the Ogetsieb, who were highly respected members of society, recording history, mythology, astronomical data.
It points to a society that valued knowledge, or at least recording it.
Definitely. And their mathematics, equally impressive. They used a base 20 system, what we call vigesimal. So instead of grouping by tens, they thought in 20s.
Which must have influenced how they saw large numbers, cosmic cycles, perhaps.
Very likely. And crucially, they developed a concept and a symbol for zero. We see it clearly used on monuments by around 357 AD, possibly one of the earliest appearances of zero as a placeholder and concept anywhere in the world.
Zero is such a fundamental concept.
It's a massive intellectual leap. It allowed for complex calculations, essential for their astronomy, which was another area where they excelled. They tracked the sun, the moon, planets like Venus, even distant stars, with remarkable accuracy.
And it all seems to tie back into their worldview, their belief system. This idea of the divine king, the cool jaw. He wasn't just a ruler in the political sense.
No, he was the crucial link, the mediator between the human world and the supernatural realm, the cosmos.
And they carved his power, his connection to the gods, onto those impressive stone monuments, the stelae we still see today.
Yes, and this cosmic connection permeated everything, even the layout of their cities. They weren't just randomly placed buildings. They were often sacred landscapes, cosmograms reflecting their view of the universe. Take Palenque, for example. Its famous temples, the Temple of the Sun, the Temple of the Cross, the Temple of the Foliated Cross. They aren't just magnificent structures. They're precisely aligned with celestial events and bodies. The sun's path, the moon, bright stars like Sirius, Capella. They encoded their cosmology right into the stone.
Representing different levels of existence.
Exactly. The upper world, the middle world where humans lived, the underworld, even constellations. The 3 hearthstones of creation, a key Maya concept, is associated with stars in Orion, and you see that reflected in some architectural groupings. And these alignments created moments of sacred theater, what researchers call hierophanies, manifestations of the sacred through light and shadow.
Like the serpent at Chichen Itza.
Precisely. The shadow forming a descending serpent on the staircase of El Castillo during the equinoxes, or at Zibilautun, where the rising sun on the equinox shines directly through the central door of the Temple of the Seven Dolls. These weren't accidents. They were carefully engineered events for public ceremony, reinforcing the king's power and the cosmic order.
So this deep connection to the cycles of the cosmos naturally led to a focus on death and rebirth. Kingship wasn't just power, it was a cosmic duty. And places like Palenque, with structures like the Temple of the Sun, were almost like stages or portals for observing these cycles and performing the rituals that kept the universe in balance.
You could see it that way, yes. Their science, their math, their art, their architecture, it was all interwoven, all serving this vision of cosmic harmony with the ruler at the very center.
It's a breathtaking synthesis.
Yeah.
But even with all this knowledge, this deep connection to the universe, something profound, something disruptive was on the horizon. Let's move forward in time now to the 9th century AD. The era we call the classic Maya period begins to, change dramatically, especially in the central southern lowlands. It's not like they vanished overnight, as the old myths suggested. It was more of a slow motion unraveling, a widespread political collapse.
That's a much better way to put it. What we see is cities being abandoned, sometimes quite rapidly, royal dynasties ending, a noticeable shift in population, generally moving northward. And the research points towards a complex interplay of factors. It wasn't just one thing.
What are the main culprits, according to the science?
Well, environmental strain seems to be a major one. There's growing evidence that in many areas, populations grew maybe too large for the environment to sustain long term. This led to resource exhaustion, deforestation, soil degradation, putting immense pressure on their agriculture, even though they had some sophisticated techniques like terracing and raised fields.
So they might have pushed their environment too hard.
It looks that way in some key regions. And then layered on top of that, you have evidence of prolonged and severe droughts during this period. For a civilization so dependent on agriculture, reliant on seasonal rains, this would have been catastrophic.
And human conflict played a role too. It wasn't a peaceful time.
Far from it. Endemic warfare between the city-states was a constant reality for the classic Maya. But during this later period, it seems to have intensified. We see evidence, particularly in regions like the Patexpatun in Guatemala, of conflicts that went beyond simply capturing rivals or territory. It was about the complete destruction of enemy cities, dismantling their power utterly.
A very destructive form of warfare.
Yes, total warfare. So you have this potent mix. Environmental stress, possibly severe drought, and escalating destructive conflict. It created a perfect storm in the southern lowlands.
And the impact wasn't uniform across the Maya world, was it?
No, that's crucial. Some cities in the south declined relatively quickly, abandoned within, say, 50 to 100 years. People just left. But others, particularly further north in the Yucatan Peninsula, like Chichen Itza and Uxmal, actually persisted and even flourished during this time or shortly after. So the collapse was geographically specific, at least initially.
Does this suggest maybe something about their social structure made it hard to cope with these kinds of crises?
That's a really important question researchers grapple with. Maya political organization was largely based on the divine king and his ritual authority. It wasn't a centralized empire with, say, strong economic control radiating from a single capital. This system, which worked well for centuries, might have been less adaptable to rapid, widespread environmental or political shocks. Perhaps their deep commitment to tradition and ritual, while a source of strength, also limited their ability to respond flexibly when the old ways stopped working. Maybe a kind of cultural inertia or environmental blindness set in.
Their strengths became weaknesses in a changing world.
Potentially, yes. But the key takeaway from modern research is this. The Maya people didn't vanish. They didn't disappear into thin air.
Right. Their classic period cities were abandoned, the political system fractured, but the people themselves endured.
Exactly. Population shifted, dispersed, likely melding back into smaller communities, adapting to new realities. Their civilization transformed, and the memory of the great cities eventually faded into myth and legend for many.
It's like watching the jungle slowly, inevitably, reclaim the stone plazas and pyramids, a powerful image of time and change. And this leads us to perhaps the most enigmatic single artifact they left behind, a riddle sealed in stone deep beneath the temple. Let's journey now to Palenque, to the magnificent Temple of the Inscriptions. For years, it was thought to be just a temple, but then a discovery, a hidden staircase descending deep into the pyramid's heart. Imagine the moment, the explorers finally reaching the bottom, breaking through into a hidden crypt, untouched for over 1,000 years. The air thick with the scent of time.
And there, dominating the chamber, was the sarcophagus of Kinichjena Pakal the Great, one of Palenque's most influential rulers. What immediately captures your attention is the lid, a massive, elaborately carved slab of stone weighing several tons.
And the image carved on it? It's become iconic.
It truly has. It depicts a figure, King Pakal, in a posture that's, ambiguous. He seems to be reclining, perhaps falling, perhaps ascending. He's surrounded by complex Maya iconography, the world tree, celestial bands, creatures of the underworld. It's dense with symbolism.
So what's the mainstream archaeological interpretation?
The widely accepted view is that it shows Pakal at the moment of death, descending into Xibalba, the Maya underworld. He's poised between the jaws of a celestial monster, representing the entrance to that realm. It's about his journey into death, but also his anticipated rebirth and apotheosis, becoming one with the gods. A classic Maya theme.
A spiritual journey carved in stone.
Precisely. A powerful statement about death, kingship, and the cosmos, entirely consistent with Maya beliefs.
Yeah, the ambiguity of the image, the strange details. They've fueled other ideas, haven't they?
They certainly have. And this is where things get more speculative. Some observers look at the posture, the surrounding elements, and see something else entirely.
Like what? What details stand out?
Well, some have suggested the frame around Pakal resembles not the jaws of the earth monster, but maybe a seat or even a cockpit. They point to his hands, appearing to manipulate controls, his feet on pedals. There's an object near his nose, some likened to an oxygen mask or breathing apparatus. And behind him, shapes interpreted as flames or exhaust.
Which leads to the most famous fringe interpretation.
Yes. The idea, popularized by Eric von Däniken and others, that the carving depicts Pakal operating some kind of spacecraft or rocket. This interpretation fits neatly into ancient astronaut theories, suggesting extraterrestrial influence on ancient civilizations. It reads the Maya symbols not as cosmological, but as technological.
So, underworld journey or space travel. It's a stark contrast.
It absolutely is. The alternative readings depend entirely on taking the imagery out of its well-documented Maya cultural and religious context and reinterpreting specific shapes based on modern technology. Mainstream archaeology firmly grounds the interpretation in Maya cosmology, mythology, and art style. But the image is evocative, and its complexity allows for these alternative readings to persist.
It leaves us with a tantalizing question, hanging in the air of that ancient tomb. What if Pakal wasn't just a king journeying to the underworld, but a messenger, maybe, or someone carrying knowledge from somewhere else? Whether Pakal was traveling to the underworld or the stars, it highlights a core truth about the Maya. Their gaze was constantly turned upward. They reached for the stars, not just out of wonder, but for very practical reasons.
Absolutely. Timing, prophecy, agriculture, political legitimacy, it was all tied to the sky. Their astronomical knowledge wasn't just theoretical, it was deeply applied. We talked about architectural alignments. Those weren't just symbolics. Alignments to equinoxes, solstices, the zenith passage of the sun. They created precise calendars in stone.
Like natural clocks.
Exactly. Structures like the Group E complexes found at sites like Waxacton seem specifically designed as solar observatories. The Temple of the Sun at Palenque, as we mentioned, catching the last solstice rays. These created those dramatic light and shadow hierophanies. Imagine being a Maya citizen witnessing the sun perfectly illuminating the king or sacred symbol on a specific predictable day. It powerfully reinforces the ruler's connection to the cosmic order.
And they tracked more than just the sun, right?
Oh, yes. They were fascinated by the cycles of Venus, which they associated with warfare and ritual. Its appearance and disappearance were carefully tracked. Eclipses, too, were hugely significant, often seen as dangerous omens. We have detailed eclipse prediction tables in the Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving Maya books. You can see the glyph for the sun, Kin, being devoured by a sky serpent or monster.
So understanding these cycles gave them a measure of predictability, maybe even control.
A sense of understanding, certainly. And it was all underpinned by their mathematics. That base 20 system, the use of zero, it allowed them to handle the vast numbers needed to track these long celestial cycles. Their calendar system was intricate. You had the 260-day Tzolk'in, the sacred calendar, perhaps linked to human gestation or agricultural cycles. Then 365-day Hab, the vague solar year. These two cycles interlocked like gears, creating a larger 52-year cycle called the calendar round. A date wouldn't repeat within that 52-year period.
And then the really big one, the long count.
Yes, the long count. This was a non-repeating calendar, counting days from a fixed mythical starting point, August 11th or 13th, 3114 BC, in our calendar. This is the date they consider the beginning of the current creation cycle.
This is where all the end of the world in 2012 stuff came from, right?
The date precisely. December 21st, 2012, marked the end of a major cycle in the long count, the completion of the 13th Baktun. A Bakan is about 394 years. But for the Maya, this wasn't an apocalypse. It was the end of one great age and the beginning of another. More like rolling over a cosmic odometer than slamming into a wall. Think New Year's Eve on a grand scale.
A reset, not an ending.
Exactly. And interestingly, inscriptions found at Palenque, associated with King Pakal, actually mention dates far into the future, projecting events and celebrations up to AD 4772. Clearly, they didn't foresee an end in 2012.
But the sheer complexity, the accuracy, it does make you wonder.
It does. The precision over such long timescales has led some researchers to speculate, again, about whether the Maya might have possessed knowledge that seems, well, advanced for their time. Was it purely observation, or was there another source? We see records of specific astronomical conjunctions, planets aligning in certain ways tied to important historical events or mythological moments, perhaps seen as opening portals or influencing destiny.
It suggests a universe that wasn't just observed, but actively engaged with.
Very much so. For the Maya, time wasn't just a linear progression like we often think of it. It was cyclical, alive, imbued with energy and meaning. Past patterns repeated. The future echoed the past.
And it leaves that lingering thought. Maybe, just maybe, the key to unlocking this profound understanding of cosmic rhythm came from somewhere or someone unexpected. As we draw our exploration to a close, it's vital to circle back to a fundamental point. The Maya civilization, in its classic form, may have transformed, but the Maya people never vanished.
Absolutely not. Today, millions of people who identify as Maya live across southeastern Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, Honduras, El Salvador, their ancestral homelands. They speak more than 24 distinct Mayan languages. And remarkably, in some highland communities, particularly in Guatemala and Chiapas, the ancient 260-day Tzolk'in ritual calendar is still kept, still used to guide ceremonies and daily life.
It's an incredible continuity.
It really is a powerful testament to cultural resilience across centuries of immense change, including conquest and colonization.
And today, there's this fascinating collaboration happening. Modern researchers, linguists, archaeologists, working alongside Maya elders and scholars to decipher the remaining untranslated glyphs, to understand the nuances of their history and worldview.
Yes, the breakthroughs in deciphering the script, especially in the latter half of the 20th century, were truly revolutionary. They opened a window onto their history, politics, and beliefs that we simply didn't have before.
Moving past those older, simpler ideas.
Exactly. We moved from seeing the classic Maya primarily as sort of peaceful, mystical astronomer priests to understanding them as complex societies with divine kings who were also politicians, strategists, and warriors. The glyphs revealed dynastic histories, alliances, betrayals, major battles, the full spectrum of human political life. It made them much more real, more historically grounded.
But even with all we've learned, the ruins themselves still hold secrets, don't they?
Oh, undoubtedly. There's still so much we don't fully grasp. The intricate details of their socio-political organization, how power flowed between different cities and classes. The full meaning behind some of their complex art forms, those strange, eccentric flints, the nuances of their stucco masks, the vast majority of their perishable art like textiles and wood carvings, which are rarely preserved, and the precise combination and weight of factors that led to the classic period transformation. The debate continues. Every new excavation seems to add another layer of complexity.
The jungle still whispers stories waiting to be fully understood.
It does.
And it prompts a final reflection. What happens when we mistake the end of a calendar cycle, or the abandonment of cities for the end of a people, the end of a culture? Imagine those ancient ruins under the vast, starry jungle sky, glowing faintly in the moonlight. They aren't just remnants of a lost world. They are alive with stories, with knowledge, with echoes of a profound understanding of time and the cosmos still inviting us to listen, to learn, to explore.
That's it for this journey beyond the known. If the unknown calls to you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow. There's so much more waiting to be discovered. And if you want even deeper access, consider unlocking Vault Access for curated wonders, or try the Secret Passage for select hidden treasures. Both come with loyalty badges, exclusive audiobooks, and early Beyond the Known episodes.